Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I think I've just got one slide, just to add a bit of colour to the morning. My name's Andy Morling. I'm head of food crime at the UK's National Food Crime Unit, part of our Food Standards Agency. My job title has distinct advantages, head of food crime. My daughter went to school the other day and said to her teacher that I'm the head of the food police. And you wouldn't believe the quality of the school meals since then, improvement. But anyway, so we've talked a lot about sort of accidental food safety threats. And what I'm going to do is bring everyone down by talking about those people that act dishonestly with the end result of unsafe food. So my presentation is called Food Crime Matters, and I'm here to explain to you exactly why it matters. Now, for those unfamiliar with the term food crime, I'll distinguish it from other food-related threats by coming up with the definition that I came up with one night in the bath. Sorry to give you that image so early in the day. And it's knowingly selling food that is either harmful or inauthentic. So the difference between what we've discussed the rest of this morning and this is that these are people who are acting, they're not trying to make people sick, but they know that potentially their actions, that they're motivated by money, as I guess we all are in some respects, but they're looking at making money in a dishonest way and are at the very least reckless as to whether the end result of their activity will harm somebody. So I'd like to say a few words about that, and there are three words that I will start with, and now they are food crime matters. I'll explain to you why that's the case. It matters because food crime strikes at the heart of the very bond that we have between consumer and those that bring food from the farm to our fork. That trust is essential for the food system to work to any degree. We're not all smallholders. We cannot all bring food to our own table. We have to trust the people that bring it to us. It matters because the UK, like Denmark and most other countries in the world that are represented here today, has a strong reputation for safe and authentic food. And it's in the economic interest of all those countries to make sure that is sustained. Food crime targets that too. Food crime cuts across many themes of this conference. Unsafe food. It can also result in food wastage. Food that's seized that is found to be inauthentic or where the traceability is compromised through dishonesty is routinely destroyed. That is a food waste issue. Just adds to our concerns in that area. It can often victimise those that pursue diversity in the food they consume, whether that's for religious observance or just choice, because food criminals target the choices made by those people. The preference for organic, the religious observance around halal food, for example, again, compromised by food criminals intentionally. In fact, it can victimise everybody, all consumers, whether discerning or otherwise. So unlike most forms of crime, there's actually very little a consumer can do about that. If you think about most forms of fraud and criminality, you can adapt your behaviour to try and limit your potential victimhood. With food, we can't. We all have to engage with the food industry. And unless we all have testing laboratories in our kitchen, which we don't, we consume our food by and large on that element of trust. That is why in 2015, the UK government established the National Food Crime Unit in the UK to lead efforts within the country to tackle this form of criminality. Such was the importance to UK consumers and to the UK economy. Food crime is often sophisticated in execution. It is almost always serious. And it always involves dishonesty. It will commonly involve a seller of a food product misrepresenting the quality, the provenance, the origin of that product to either a consumer or to a business. So it can be business to business or business to consumer. It can be the subtle adulteration of a mass market ingredient, like grain, for example, or it can be the very major adulteration, replacement, substitution of an entire niche product sold to just a few. Food crime can be, although the business-to-business element of food crime can't be overlooked, in the majority of instances, the victimhood sticks with the consumer because, as you can imagine, the business will pass on that victimhood invariably, unknowingly, to the consumer. So it is ultimately the consumer that suffers. So protecting the vulnerable from serious crime has been a motivator for me for my 30-odd year career in law enforcement. I'm not a food person, I'm a crime person, so hopefully I bring a different sort of dimension to my work for that reason. It's quite helpful because I see food crime as a crime problem rather than a food problem. It just happens to be that food is the vehicle for the criminality. So we are all capable of dishonesty. Everyone in this room, if suitably motivated, could act dishonestly. That's no different for people within the food industry. These are not external criminals coming into the food industry to act. These are people already time-served participants in the food industry. It's a slippery slope, beginning with non-compliance, and if the push and pull factors are strong enough, the dishonesty is the end result of that. And it can be quite subtle. It can be a one-off to persuade the bank to get off a business's back for a period of time, to get a bit extra profit for a short period of time, but it can become very, very sort of addictive, if you like, for the food business operator, because most of the time the world doesn't stop spinning. Most of the time the National Food Crime Unit don't go through their door and arrest people. Most of the time food crime goes unnoticed. Again, that is the reason why it matters. So in 2013, the discovery of horse DNA in processed meat products in the UK changed everything. It changed it for government, it changed it for the industry, and it changed it for consumers. Everyone with a stake in safe and authentic food felt the pain, and that pain resonates to this day. And I think the part that resonates most is not the violation itself, but the fact that food was proven to be not to be inviolate, that food could be rendered inauthentic through dishonesty. Now, we're in year 3 of that journey in the UK. Some countries are even further behind than that in waking up to the realities of this threat. But I think it's important to maintain the integrity of the food system, whether or not there is a safety result from the food crime itself. So the inconvenient truth is that most food crime is committed by people working within the food industry, legitimate participants within the industry, rather. So it's good businesses gone bad, rather than businesses that were bad from the beginning. This is not to say that industry is to blame for food crime, because criminals are to blame for food crime. That's another important distinction to make. There are criminals who develop within the food industry that cause this pain, but this is not an industry-wide issue. So although this session is about solutions, I must say I don't really have much of a solution. Hopefully I can inspire you to think of perhaps another problem to resolve later on. But we are in the foothills of our understanding of food crime still. That's why food crime is a global problem, hence we're here today at a global conference. And in April this year, I was privileged to be in Canada, where I launched the Global Alliance on Food Crime, which intends to bring together the major developed nations to, as a sort of a coalition of the willing to tackle this problem on a global scale. Supply chains are global, the response needs to be global too. So I'll finish with just my own sort of personal reflection on why food crime matters, because I think if there's one fundamental human right we have, it is the right to have total control over what we take into our body. Food crime targets that. So if we really are what we eat, in physical terms, in cultural terms, in physiological terms, then I believe food crime matters. Thank you.